alaikum, peace and blessings. Welcome to Modest Beauty Podcast. I'm your host, Khalida the Model. Today's special guest is a modest Muslim American model and entrepreneur. She started modeling when she was 22 years old for local Muslim designers in New York and New Jersey in the early 1990s. At the time, modest Muslim models were far and between. Fast forward to now, she has a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in teaching English and is married for 24 years, has been married for 24 years, and has 3 sons. She happened to go to a fashion show in 2018 and asked to model on the spot and never looked back. I guess you have figured out who it's been. It's me. I've modeled for private shows in New York Fashion Week, consecutive fashion shows for DC Fashion Week. I was also on the cover of Azizah magazine. I'm sure some of you probably thought it was me, but did not know. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. And actually, I would like to show you the magazine. Give me 1 minute. This is the first contemporary Muslim magazine that was put out. And I was blessed to have been on the cover of it. Those of you who can see, this was me. And this was, I want to say 2001. And I was very blessed to have been on the cover of this magazine. Those of you who know Taiba Taylor, who has passed, may Allah be pleased with her. And so anyway, this was the contemporary Muslim women's magazine that I was on the cover of. So yes, it was me. Those of you who thought it was me, yes, it was. I also modeled internationally and had the opportunity to model in Italy right before COVID in 2020. And I still, to this day, try to pull up the ladder, go up the ladder as a modest Muslim model. And I'm still trying to pave the way for others to come behind me. To add to my list, I'm taking a stab at journalism through my podcast, Modest Beauty. Welcome me. I really wanted to celebrate episode 10 during this month, which is Women's History Month, and highlight, which is March, highlight the Modest Beauty podcast and just highlight just women in general during this month. And that's why I really wanted to dedicate my episode 10. I've had Modest Beauty guests on the podcast. I've had guests who support Modest Beauty on the podcast. I have some upcoming guests who support and magnify Modest Beauty coming on the podcast. And my goal is to continue inspiring, acknowledging, and appreciating and accepting creatives on my podcast. I do have some things in the works. And one of them is to highlight my Modest Beauty podcast, but for it to be Modest Beauty and more. So those who are accepting and respecting the modest beauty industry, or just modest beauty in general, but not necessarily are in the fashion industry. So stay tuned for that. One thing that always excites me, other than modeling, is getting to know people and talking with them and connecting with them, connecting them with others. A lot of you who know me say, oh, she's a busybody. She's very nosy. No, I'm very inquisitive, and I like to communicate with people. We are seeing a real change in society with modest beauty and how we are perceived as Muslim women and of course, Muslim women of color. Journalists reveal stories, and I'm taking on that title because I'm revealing stories of people who make up what I consider my community and my society. Please, if you do know of people who would like to be a guest on my podcast, please email me. One last thing that I would like to address and mention is that I would love to continue showing and presenting these podcasts in the best quality possible. One of my guests asked where she can send money. And I told her I didn't have a place, and I did everything by myself, except the editing that actually is outsourced. So I thought about it, and I thought about it for a long time, and I came up with an idea of maybe sponsors. Maybe that each episode can be sponsored by a company or an individual or a group. And maybe that I can highlight them on that episode that they sponsored, maybe mention their business, what they do. And that's why when I say modest beauty and more, because there are women and modest women and women who support modesty and accepting of modesty, modest beauty. They are not in the fashion industry. They are accountants. They are healthcare professionals. So with that said, this is something that I think I will continue to promote because they also need to be mentioned as well. And they also make up society and contribute to what I believe is in the modest society, because if they are doctors or nurses and they're still showing up, being modest and still are beautiful, I would like to acknowledge them as well. I would like to thank those of you who have offered your services, suggestions, and of course, zakat. I really, really appreciate that. It's very helpful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And those of you who have shared your services, and most of all of the guests who have visited my podcast and donated their time, shared their stories, to the point to make this a special podcast for modest, beautiful women. I really, really appreciate your time and your donations to this podcast. So I wanted episode 10 to just highlight the women during this month, and also highlight the upcoming episodes and what to expect. And hopefully I will continue to do this, because I'm really, really loving this journalist in me to add to the list of things that I have already accomplished.
You don't necessarily want us to represent who we are, but you want to still what we have to offer, what we have created, but you don't want us to represent it on our own. It's such a weird juxtaposition that the industry presents itself. And I'm just like, I see our culture all over. I'm just in the flesh. I'm just representing that now,
and that's why I wanted you on and a model that's in the industry. We do have models, alhamdulillah, that are on the sidelines and doing stuff, but you are in the industry, like literally in the industry, in the mix. So you know what's going on. You are not going to compromise your modesty once you embraced Islam. You did not compromise your modesty, but you also did not fall short of being fashionable or trendy.
I started modeling in high school, and then I started being a designer, and I started teaching models at John Casablancas. So I've always been attracted to the business. So when I saw the opportunity to leave corporate America and just focus on my passion, I did that. And you hear it so often. If you do something well enough, it will pay for itself.
Yes.
I don't care
Yes.
if your job is watering plants. If you water plants better than anybody else, the money will come. If your job is you can make a peanut butter cookie, if you make the best peanut butter cookie, it's gonna pay off. So delve into your passion.
Wow. So out of all of those skills that you do have and all of the hats that we talked about earlier, which is your favorite? I know you are a designer, but you also put such a wonderful show on in this fashion week, and it's not easy. And it's not
it's
easy.
a lot of work.
It's a lot of work,
moving parts.
exactly, and it's a few days.
I have an amazing team. I couldn't do it without my team. My associate producer, Jimmy Jones, my stage manager, David Miller, my production assistants, Chris and Portia, my lead makeup artist is Ned, Flan captures all the beautiful pictures, Damon catches video. I'm sure I'm missing somebody, but I'm blessed with a phenomenal team.
But I would say this past year, I mean, for all of us has been through it's been crazy, But what it's done for me, I mean, besides, all the people dying, and that's horrible, but it allowed me to slow down. It allowed me, it's like, because in New York, it's a grind.
Oh, yeah.
It's a grind.
That is considered rat race. When you look in a dictionary,
Yes, it's New York.
New York is right there, rat race. That's right.
So it's a grind. So when New York shut down, it's just like, okay, I actually was good. I was just like, wow, you can think, you can sit there and plan
quietly.
You don't understand. I can sit in quiet for a long time. And people are like, what is I flourish on quiet, and then sometimes you're like, when I'm designing, I put on some music, like some incense, and I'm good. You know what I'm saying? I don't need a lot of extra stuff. So when it allowed me to quiet down, it's just like, this is what I want the next 5-10 years to be
of my life to be.
I don't want necessarily the grind that I've been doing for the last, umpteen years.
25
it's just
years.
like minimalism. I've gotten rid of a lot of things. It's just clarity. It's
put things
like,
in perspective.
Okay, and what is your legacy that you're leaving back, behind? And that's why it's like Cover Me Chic, it makes sense for me, and it's just like, okay, all the years that I've been in this industry, I can now teach someone else that wants to do this, or wants to, be the next whoever, I don't have to be that, because it's like at one point I thought I wanted it, but it's just like, it's a grind, and it's a lifestyle that
you got to uphold.
I mean, you can do it, and you can do it when you're young, but it's just like, once you get to a certain age, it's just like, it's not worth it. It's just not worth it.
I know.
But someone else might want it, and I can show you how to do it. It's like, because I've done it, but at the same time, it's not something that I want anymore. I want something that I can go work up, water my plants, walk in the yard, feel the grass on my feet.
Right.
It's just like take vacations, spend time with the family. It's just like that kind of stuff that I didn't have time for because of the grind is now something that I'm making a priority.
Wow.
So it's just like, I'm like reassessing everything.
Yes.
Now I'm designing what I'm doing for a living around the life that I want.
That's
and
perfect.
Not the other way around.
Yes, because you're right, because it does grab hold of us, and we're working for it.
Right, because just like, this is what I want. It's like, I'm in the fashion industry, I'm a design director. I have staff under me. I have to make sure they're good. I have to make sure production's good. I have to make sales good. Make sure all the stuff. And there's so many different pots, but it's just like, it's a grind, and it's like your mind is always going.
Yep.
But my thing is like, and you have to design your life around that grind.
That's
so
right.
It's just like, you have to schedule your life around that work.
Now it's going to be opposite. Hopefully,
I'm working for it to be the opposite way around. And that's what I'm looking forward to in the future.
Wow, that's great. Alhamdulillah. I really, really love your answers. I love your dialogue. I hope our listeners and our viewers appreciated it as well. I can't thank you enough for coming on and sharing all of these gems. Like, mashallah, you just were dropping them. To help us, to help those who want to come behind you, right. And also to help those who just might want to help. It doesn't have to be for pay. Maybe they might want to volunteer, because we can always use volunteers. We can always use somebody to help us. And it doesn't necessarily have to be for pay, because some people, they do better or well with an apprenticeship or some type of intern.
Right. You know? So, I mean, definitely. I mean, it's looking forward to all of that. So it's a working process, you know. Mm-hmm. It's always a working process.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Zahia. Alhamdulillah. I can't wait. You know what? The next time I'm in New York, because I do sometimes shows or whatever, but if I am in New York, I would love to sit. Maybe we can go and have some coffee or something. I know you're pretty busy.
Coffee is my thing, so we can definitely do coffee.
I don't even drink coffee, but people say that, so I'm gonna put that out there. I'm gonna drink some tea. But
this is fine.
I do coffee once in a while, but it's got to be one of those frappuccino, latte, whatever, those fancy things with all the whipped cream.
Right. So, and that's the thing. It's like, I can't do that, but I drink coffee.
You like my husband. He'll be drinking some black coffee, like straight. Well,
I still have to have my creamer.
Oh yeah.
But I do drink coffee. You know, I do drink a lot of coffee.
Yeah, but I would love to. Like I said, we haven't seen each other in so long. It was, 25, 28 years ago. And I really appreciate you making an appearance and being a guest on my podcast. With that, I would like to say to our viewers and listeners, be fashionable, be trendy, be modest. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.